What's that sound I hear? Is this a video? Yeah, let's try it. Let's watch Tezuka play Delial. Deli's picked up a card. I don't know what it is. This is the second game of their match. The first one was a tie. This is for weekly open 71 by my count, which has been a slow in happening. Looks like Deli has good setups in 2, and 7-2-4-1 is kind of his card for 2 and 6. That might free him up to play a move in a square like 4, 7, or 8. He has really often been forcing the action. We do see him go in 7. That is the square I think you go in most often when you are happy with your plays in 2 and 6. Recently, when we've seen Deli, we've seen him go a lot in 2 and 6 himself and force the action, which is a type of play I would also have done a fair amount of. Tezuka, as we can see, his move in 5 set up 5-4-5-1 to have a really nice same in 6, and 4-5-3-3 to have a nice same in 2. So Tezuka certainly also feels happy with his play in 2 and 6, and he shouldn't feel that dissatisfied that Deli's 7-2-4-1 his play, because its play in 6 is not that strong. It's not going to combo. Well, is the plus wall on? Plus wall is not on. And also because Tezuka has a same in 2, he's not that scared of plus walls. So if Deli holds that card for 2 and 6 in the end game, Tezuka is definitely not losing if those are the final 2 squares. Um, so obviously Deli will play such that they're not, but it is to say Tezuka doesn't have to worry too much about that. Tezuka, however, does not have rightward play, so he does not have 8. So he wants to keep 2 and 6 as viable squares and get rid of 8, which probably means getting rid of 4. So I think the natural thing to do is something like 5-4-3-2 and 4. It's a card that, he doesn't need for 2 or 6, probably doesn't have unique value in the hand. He has 2 higher numbers to the right. It's 2 to the left is not doing that much. He has another 5 facing up. The 3 facing down is no great shakes. There might be some critical line I'm not noticing where like 7-2-4-1 is going to land a 9 and he needs that card for 6. But 5-4-3-2 and 4 seems like a very natural move to say, okay, I will use this card that doesn't have much play. I will get rid of a pair of squares likely that I don't want. Or if you don't play an 8, now I do have 8 because I've already flipped 7, so it's just blocking in a card, right? The reason Tezuka doesn't have 8 is because it doesn't flip 7. If 7 was Tezuka's, then Tezuka does have 8, right? It's contingent on whether that card is flipped. So I think that would be a very natural way to play it. I'm sure there's ways to look for more ambition, but no one's ever accused me of being the most ambitious of players. But that seems like the right squares to be getting rid of while doing something kind of useful. Deli has an interesting choice between 3-3-2-5 and 8 or 1-4-4-6 and 8, at least if we just consider the obvious moves. Where he has the choice between does he want to flip 5 or not? My guess is no. And 1-4-4-6 and 8 is safe. So that'll be 5-5, where Deli has 2 safe cards to Tezuka's 1. So you can see why Tezuka might want to avoid such things. But I think Tezuka should be able to play a move like 3-5-4-2 and 1 there, which will be safe with 1-4-4-6 out of Deli's hand, and Tezuka keeps control of those 2 combo squares. Deli should be able to tie there, say by going in 9, but it seems comfortable path to a tie. But given that that does just look like a tie, and Tezuka has such good play in 2 and 6 that you might be looking for more ambition there, I could certainly see him going for something else. But I mean, he's thought about this position longer than I have, and I'm sure in more depth. I think that seems a very secure path. And I think I'd just be satisfied with it. Yeah, he does go there. So the line we gave is Deli goes 1-4-4-6 in 8, which is safe. Given Tezuka's good play in 2 or 6, you don't really want to occupy those squares. So the obvious candidates are 1 and 9. There's safety in 1. You can play safely in 1 while keeping available your cards that have sames in 2 and 6. So that seems very natural to do. Specifically 3-5-4-2 and 1, just repeating the line I already said. if deli goes in 2, he dies to combos. Because it's sames, you don't get anything back ever. So he just dies to combos. If he goes in 6, I believe he dies to combos, then maybe he flips enough back, it's a tie. Looks like he dies to combos. So he should go in 9 there. And he has to keep 7-2-4-1. So I think he has to play 3-3-2, 5, and 9. However, because he has the combo in 2, Tezuka doesn't have a way to really punish this. Unless I can't count. But it looks like it's 5-5. If Tezuka goes in 2, he can only flip 3, which deli flips back, so that's a tie. And if Tezuka goes in 6, say with 5-4-5-1, he flips 2 things. He flips 5. Well, 5 never flipped. Sorry, he flips a 3, and he flips 9. Doesn't combo anything extra, but even if it did, deli would combo back through 5 to flip that, so that doesn't matter. And deli plays in 2, flipping back 3 and 5. So it looks like ties. Looks like a nicely played. I mean, looks correct. I'm I'm not giving this line and being like, ah, shucks, just ties. I'm like, there is a logical line here. It feels correct at every point. I suspect it is optimal at each point, and it looks like it is headed for a tie that neither player will miss. Deli, of course, can look for other ideas. So let's think, what would he look for? I don't think he has side-to-side sweepers. So there's an argument for 7-2-4-1 and 6. Not in this like exact position, but in this type of position, which is to say you can force a side-to-side game. You know, the S or Q is always going to be very side-to-side or up-down oriented, and he has 2 cards, his bottom 2 cards, that are very side-to-side oriented, and there is always a chance they just sweep there. That like 1-4-4-6 is just guaranteed captures going left and going right. So that is going to go at least even. And 3-3-2-5 can do work as well. All right, deli does it with 3-3-2-5, not with 1-4-4-6. He flips 5, which is a somewhat risky decision because he has the potential now for combos to go through. Okay, he's up 6-4. I'm sure he saw stuff I didn't. I'm not. But let's say Tezuka continues with the way we were thinking. 3-5-4-2 and 1. If deli goes either card in 2, I believe he loses to 5-4-5-1 in 6. Deli has no combo set up against that in 9. He doesn't have coverage of this. So that will flip back many things. We don't actually have to count that out. It's definitely a win. But if you want, we can, just to prove that I can still count. 3-5-4-2 and 1. Wait, that's not what happened. Now it's a tie. I mean, I assume there was a tie the other way, and Tezuka just checked this way faster than I could talk. But, it is now a tie. So I thought the critical line was if Tezuka goes 3-5-4-2 and 1, and deli now goes in 9. The difference is that Tezuka now can take the same in 5, and that combos through to flip 8, which wouldn't be his in the other version. So I thought it should be a 6-4 win. Gonna put moves into the database. So this started 1-1-5-5 and 3, 3-1-7-1-5, 3-5-4-2-7, 5-4-3-2-4, 3-3-2-5-8, 4-5-3-3-2, 1-4-4-6-1. Now we'll see the last 2 moves. I'm kind of curious to bring up the solver here because, well, I said we proved I can still count. I don't see why that wasn't a win. And I certainly trust them over myself right now. So, I'm curious. What did I miss? All right, let's, where's the solver on the computer? It's been a bit. Okay. I just want to be shown. What did I miss? and nothing's popped up on my phone. Usually, if deli screws up, he finds it and sends a message saying, oh no, or something, because, he's gonna spot it. So I really think I must have just missed something big here and like straightforward. And you, the viewer, are going, wow, what a moron. And he's just using as an excuse that he doesn't play much anymore, but like, or hasn't played in a while. I'd like to, play a lot at some point again. But um excuses, but what a fool. And I agree, what a fool. I put in the cards wrong. Oops. Deli's second card was not 3542, it was 2543. What a fool, as I said, but like, I'm really curious what I'm missing. It seemed very intuitive to me, and I think I blew it. So let's see where. All right. Okay, so I thought Deli should play 1, 4, 4, 6, and 8, and that was a tie. Deli played 3, 3, 2, 5, and 8. No, am I a genius? Yeah. 3, 5, 4, 2, and 1 was winning for Tezuka. Okay. I didn't miss anything. Um, I gave good correct lines. I wonder what they both missed about it. I mean, obviously, like, we all think quite differently. So there are lots of positions where both of them spot moves I miss. And not only do they spot it, but they will describe it as like, well, this was straightforward. And like, I noticed this especially a long time ago. They're playing again, so let's go to it. When watching Jadat, and he would just like make moves that were completely alien to me and then be like, oh yeah, obviously I need to control this part of the board. Um, because of reasons that when he said them were clearly very straightforward to him, but struck me as completely alien to my kind of I don't know, would you call it like academic approach? I don't know. But it wasn't that it wasn't like in some sense academic from him. It wasn't like super vibes based. It was very much like in this kind of position you need to impact this part of the board, and this is a way that gives me control of this part of the board, but just so different from how I think about or term things. And even now I have spent so much time trying to term things in different ways and think about like come up with random theories to think about play and think about um, ways to orient oneself so you find different moves than you would find normally. Um, but there are just, we all find different, very different things intuitive and we train ourselves to. So I'm curious what was missed there. Because I thought it was really dangerous. So for me, that was, I thought it's very natural for Deli to play an 8, not flipping 5. My guess is Deli saw that 1446 was a more powerful card in a lot of lines. Because one of the differences between me and Deli intuitively is he looks to retain more power in hand. And I'm looking for, that was not a message related to this, and I don't know if you can hear this. That was, sorry, what was I talking about? Jesus Christ. Bring, and your brain's gone. My brain's gone anyway. But he tends to value power in hand more, and I tend to value impact on board more. And so that makes sense as a move of I don't want to flip 5, so I want to use 1446. He wants to flip 5. So I mean he doesn't want to flip 5 either, but he wants to keep 1446 for later. So in a vacuum, he's more likely to make that move. But for both of us, it should just be determined by calculation at that point anyway. But it is to say there's a different instinct there. But yeah. And Tezuka thinks more differently than I do. But I'd be curious. Like, it's not like, yeah, I'd just be curious. Okay. So Tezuka plays a side starter where both he and Deli have safe recaptures because 3452 is a safe recapture and 3272 for Deli is a safe capture. So we're now in this classic game of whoever acts first is sort of disadvantaged by it. And Deli does a move that instinctively I think is awesome, but I'm going to get back to that in a sec. I would claim I popularized this move type. I might be completely full of shit on that, but my suspicion is I did. Um, but you're sort of they because they both have such good captures. They're in a battle for whoever takes those squares first is at disadvantage because the other recaptures well. And so, of course, I'm talking very basics today, but it's been a while, so I have to like reorient myself. Um, where if you want to occupy one or three, you know what the opponent's next move is, so you need a plan when you do so. It's not that going in one or three is wrong to immediately do so, even though they'll have two safeties to your one. It's that you need a plan, and that plan is almost certainly an L. So Deli could have played in one, Tezuka goes in three, and then Deli sets up the L by going in four, setting up a threat in five. Deli goes for four immediately, which is essentially saying if you go in one, I get to be the one to go in three, right? So, which means I get two, and I still have the threat in five, which you do not have. He has set up a unique threat. I assume unique. I don't remember what card Tezuka has picked up, so I might be full of it per usual. Now, there is a third really important square constructed now, though, in seven. And so it might be that Tezuka has play in seven with specifically 3, 6, 4, 2, 4. But for Tezuka, there's three squares. There's 1, 3, 7. And so Tezuka can say here, I get one of them, you get another, and I get the third. But Deli is saying, no, there is a fourth square. I also have 5. So any way you sequence 1, 3, 7, I'll get one of those, and I'll get 5, which will counteract the impact of the other. And so Tezuka says, no, I don't want you to have all these squares. I'm going to make a huge mess on board. I'm going to give myself play in 5 because Tezuka now has 5 with 1, 4, 4, 6. And that he's going to claim he already had sufficient play in 1 and 3 with 3, 4, 5, 2, but also 3, 6, 2, 4 could be relevant in 1. 3, 4, 5, 2 does not have the flip. And I have play in 7. And again, this is very, very different than my intuitive thinking on these positions, which is very much here are good and bad squares for me. How can I get rid of them in a way where I end up getting good enough squares? Instead, Tezuka is going, no, no, no. You have said I have more good squares than you. This cannot stand. I need all the good squares as well. And yeah, what a if we had records of every tournament game ever, and maybe even every game ever, you would find incredibly few positions where I'm playing this structure from the first turn perspective. And I mean, it looks fine. Like I'm not, I don't, I think it looks appealing here, but it is not what I look for at all. And that's really where I think it becomes clear that Triple Triad is genuinely an amazing game because it does have room for such a variety of styles. Like I made some videos about Slay the Spire, and I was trying to get better at it, and I have beaten. Um, did I beat A20 Heart with every character now? I definitely beat A20, but not necessarily Heart. I think I'm on 3 of 4. Might be missing Defect. Anyway, doesn't matter. But one thing cool about that game is even for the most kind of linearly straightforward character, which is the Watcher, which is the best character. Um, you look at different top players and they play it quite differently. It's not like there are real differences in style as well as differences in kind of technical ability. And that's what you want to see in a game. And obviously, once you start plugging things into the solver and you see, oh, in this position, just saying random numbers, not related to any position, say there are 17 losses and 7 ties. This would be a position on move 4. So there's 24 possible moves left. Say 7 ties, 17 losses. That usually means you're a bit behind, but still have some chances. Definitely, like you can tie, there are 7 ties. Usually means like higher chances to lose than win, but still some winning chances. Um, but there are 7 moves that tie. And among those, there might be like 2 or 3 that are just like just barely scraping the tie. But there are four that are like really legitimate choices between them and on par kind of balanced, and you will see differences in style. And I think that's awesome. So deli goes in three. Now, once deli goes in three, there are sort of three obviously good squares left. And one thing I think Deli has noted is that in this position, if the sort of I often talk about paired squares, and here we had like Ford squares, quartet of squares that are all interrelated in 1, 3, 5, and 7, which makes it not so obvious there are paired squares. Like 3 is sort of paired with 1. Like if Deli goes 3, Tezuka's likely to go 1. But 1 isn't paired with 3. If Deli had gone 1, Tezuka could easily go in 7 as well. 7 is probably paired with 1, 3 is probably paired with 1 is not directly paired, and 5 is often happening at the end of any sequence, right? Once 1 is taken, 5 becomes more valuable. 5 is normally not a response to 3 or 7 because 1 is so good after that. It's the last to interact with so many squares. But so Deli chooses to go in 1 of 3 or 7, which importantly makes 1 really likely in response. Now, because there are these 4 squares and Deli is the first to occupy, it does seem like Tezuka will have the last play in those 4 squares. But something that really benefits Deli here is Tezuka does not have up-down power. So however this sequence is out, Tezuka's not going to have a great sweeper for 6 and 9. And he might have a card that's completely dead there. So I would expect Tezuka to go in 1 here. 3, 4, 5, 2 is the card we've sort of expected to land in 1 the whole game. It is not a card he needs for 7. It's not a card he needs for 5. Tezuka has the advantage of, in this quartet of squares, he's going to get the last play. That's really valuable. Deli's going to get the advantage of 2 things. 1, Tezuka does not have up-down sweepers. 2, Deli's move in 3 gets to interact with 5 because it can set up for play in 6. What is Tezuka's card for 5? 4, 4, 2, 1, 4, 4, 6. Deli now is play against that in 6. So Deli is saying there's this quartet of squares, you've set it up. If I go in any of them, you will get the last move there. That's an advantage for you. But the last move is almost certain to be in 5 of that quartet, right? If Deli goes in 3, Tezuka's not going to go in 5 immediately. Deli has 1. Tezuka's not going to go, I mean, I guess you could go in 7, but it's pretty sketchy. All right, Tezuka decides he cannot touch it, that Deli has set this up too well, that however he sequences it, he goes in 1, Deli, I think, goes in 7, and then Tezuka can't go in 5 due to the combo in 6. So he says, I'm going to get rid of 6, and now I have 1, 4, 4, 6 for 5, and I have 3, 6, 2, 4 for 1 or 7. But he is almost dead in 9. And so this looks promising for Deli, but I think he's really trying to land. Not sure exactly. My instinct is Deli blocks 1 here. Deli blocks 1. He has captures in 7. Doesn't really matter if it combos or not. Against 5, it basically never flips anything extra. Okay, he takes 5. Yeah, this looks good. Because Tezuka can't get rid of 9. Now, Tezuka could go. Yeah, so now it actually does matter. I was wrong. It does matter that Deli is a plus in 7, because if Tezuka takes the plus in 1, Deli combos back. I was only looking at lines starting in 1, not starting in 5. This looks very clean. Yeah, I think Deli's done it. That move in 3 was quite really nice way to set up against 5, realizing that was the critical square. Now it's possible. Yeah, I don't have an instinct for how Tezuka holds that. He gets rid of 9, but now 3, 6, 2, 4 just doesn't take enough in 7. Deli gets the win. Really complicated game. Really like the move in 3. Yeah, I mean, we should uh we should certainly check this quickly with the solver. My guess is the losing move was in 6, that there was some way to hold this, but also it looks really difficult to do. And like you might say it's move 5, you should be able to maybe calculate everything. I think move 5 is borderline human range, and this is one of the most complex kinds of positions to try to figure out. Um, yeah, so Deli gets the win. How did the last move sequence? Um, 2, 5, 2, 4, 8, 3, 6, 5, 9. Deli goes 1, 3, 6, 2, 4, and 7. Really interesting game. I really like Tezuka's move in 8, so I really hope that wasn't the losing try, because I do not want it to be the losing try. Um, love to see wins with the adjacent side. Uh, easily one of my favorite formational um, ways of playing. Yeah, one thing cool about catching two players like this is they are both very much up for making like insanely complicated plays, which in many ways makes them much more appealing than watching my own games. Um, I swear I play more interestingly than I sometimes make myself sound. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're putting this into the solver. Um, So the move in 4, I think Deli should have a pleasant position. Yeah, it looks pretty pleasant, but doesn't think Tezuka's in too much danger. The move in 8, it thinks doesn't yeah, it thinks this is pretty drawish actually. Um, and Deli finds this really interesting move in 3. All right, 5 ties, 10 losses after the move in 3. The move in 8 was fine. Um, my instinct was 1. There are 2 ties in 1. There are 2 ties in 7. But interestingly, so yeah, I was right that you don't take 5. Um, and I said 3 was paired with 1, so I thought 1 was the square, and 1 was a square. But I did mention that 3 could be paired with 7, even though that very much wasn't my instinct and took me a little to realize. And there were also a couple ties in 7. But one thing interesting is there is a tie in 9. So Tezuka went 3, 4, 5, 2, and 6, blocking 6 so that the combo chains would work better. But 9 ended up being a really dead square. But interestingly, 3, 4, 5, 2, and 9 does hold a very similar concept. You do often see this, where like when a really great player goes astray, there is something close to their thought process that works well. And I think that was the case here. Now, this doesn't block 6, but it also means you're not the one who's likely to land in 5. Interesting. So Tezuka goes in 6, and this was the losing mistake. And Deli has a bunch of wins. So I was looking at 1. There are 3 wins in 1. Every card in 1 wins. But Deli found, I think, a really elegant solve in 5. Just very cutely showing that 9 was a dead square. I think this is a rule for both these sort of positions that are kind of like a cross. Um, like a cross being cards in 2, 5, 8, 4, and 6, where the cards on board makes a cross. Or an X position of just if you have last turn and there is any square that is fully dead for you, you probably just lose the game. Like, very likely just lose the game. It's just not functional to have a dead square. And this is, I guess, more broadly true. Any position where there are no squares that directly interact. And this move in 6, I'll pop you over to the solver for a sec just so you can see better what I'm looking at. This move in 6 means there's no squares that touch each other, right? 1 doesn't touch anything, 5 doesn't touch anything, 7 doesn't touch anything, 9 doesn't touch anything. The only way things interact is through combo. And just any position like this, I think you just can't have a dead square. You see it with crosses. I'm just putting cards in random squares here, right? The only things that can interact are through combo. And if you have a dead square, it's just too big a drawback. Like, you need to be able to meet them going somewhere else with taking up your dead square, and your other card needs to be really good. And if for both remaining squares, and if they can set it up so your other card basically needs to be dominant everywhere, and so dominant it can make up for your wasted turn in the dead square. And we saw in the game that like Tezuka did immediately get rid of the dead square. He went, like obviously that cannot stand, but his remaining card was not a sufficiently good enough sweeper. And I think this is just generally true that you cannot move to a sort of segregated board like this unless one of your cards is just the single greatest sweeper in the history of time. If you have any square that is dead to you. And so I think this could never be a tie here, or almost never. But it's interesting, this very similar move. And you could say it's really different because it doesn't block 6. But in my eyes, it's very similar because I look at the board through these sort of paired squares. If one is connected to 5, one is connected to 7, 1, 5, and 7 are really likely to all go in the same way. And so 6 and 9 to me are connected squares. They're very likely to directly interact with each other. And so to me, playing in 1 of 6 is very similar to playing in 1 of 9 because it doesn't interact with the 1, 5, 7 sort of triad of connected squares that combo the same cards. 6 and 9 are separate from that and really connected in my head. Now, if he had played here and the tie was this, I would not connect these as moves. But he's maintaining the same cards in hand, so I see these as very similar moves, even if they clearly achieve some quite different goals. So it's neat that even though he didn't find like the key thing of going something in 1 or something in 7, not necessarily any card. If I pop this open, you can see which cards it is. Card 2 is the top card, is 3, 4, 5, 2. Card 3 is the 1, 4, 4, 6, and card 4 is this 3, 6, 2, 4. So you can see all the output there and look through it for yourself. But I think it's interesting that the one kind of offbeat move that ties, he found a really close option to. I think that's cool. And I think, again, you see that a lot. And, like, if he had played something like this, I would be like, yeah, this is just a terrible move that was disconnected to stuff. But this is not. This is really close to an idea that works. All right, it was fun to talk about Triple Triad again. I sort of feel like when I come to it after having not talked about it for a while, because I'm sort of refiguring out how I think about thinking. Sometimes I think I do really good work, and sometimes I think I'm doing really basic work. Where like, oh my god, he's going over this again. Uh, Today I'm hoping it veered more towards the good. I'd like to think it did.